I think it's pretty important to kind of put together what the different headline, or I should say headers for our outline, it doesn't matter what you call them, but as we go through every single day, there's certain things that we keep coming back to. What are the themes? What's my bias? What are parked, pipeline, and radar? So I thought, probably wouldn't hurt for me to explain what the heck these are. And that's where these notes came from. So what do you do with these notes? This is how I'm organizing my day. The workflow has taken the place of my handwritten journal. So I think a key part to understanding what the notes are doing, how to get the most out of them, is to understand each one of these headers. And so I went ahead and did that. When I rant, I'll throw that under the discussions. Our Forex fishbowl discussion. Then we've got the radar. What I'm watching, and this is really important, but have not placed a pending order. So what pairs am I watching, but not placed an order, a pending order in? Okay? So when there is a radar, there isn't even necessarily a setup. I guess the best way to put the radar is the pair has my attention. Okay, that's the radar. So we're not really doing anything necessarily. There may be a setup, there may not. Okay, having a setup does not mean it's going to automatically, though, get into the parked orders. Okay, it does not necessarily mean it's going to get into the parked orders. So if I have the radar, orders that are pending, that means there is a setup. And then pipeline, of course, the orders that are filled, and I'm managing them. That's pretty simple, right? Parked and pipeline are pretty simple. I think themes, bias, and radar can be a little difficult because themes are one of those large fundamental stories. Think Google headlines. What we do with Google headlines. When we do all that Google headline surfing, think about that. I can wrap my head around a story, and then I can also see it's being discounted into price action. And I should say that maybe, we may not see, for example, one of the themes we have is the Aussie dollar. We have a large fundamental story that should be bearish to the Aussie, but it has yet to be discounted into price. So it doesn't have to be, but that may be also being discounted into price action. The bias, now this is kind of I don't know if it's splitting hairs, but for example, it reflects my preference for certain pairs, single currency stories, and even fundamental scenarios. I should even say even time frames. Because one of the biases I have right now, we saw, and I put this in the notes yesterday for the bias, is that my bias continues to be my preference for longer term time frames in the daily, that hybrid approach. You guys got the video to that yesterday. And a lot of times my bias, of course, is going to be based on the themes. So themes come first, then bias. Okay, themes come first, then bias. Okay? And I wanted to move this entire... Oh, that's what I did wrong. So I love how you can move these things. That's great. I love that. So easy. So I have my themes, and then from themes we have our bias. And we didn't really have anything on our radar because ultimately my book is full right now. I really don't have a lot. However, we did get one of our orders filled in the dollar loonie. So one of the things you can do if you want is when one of your parked orders becomes a pipeline, you can actually cross it out by hitting complete. So we know that partially or even completely we've moved from parked to pipeline. Now this is only partial. because we actually still have our dollar Canada pending order at 2 lots waiting, with 2 lots waiting. So there's a lot you can do here in terms of organizing it so that you never lose track of where you are. I think having these headlines, snatching a piece of an article that really just drives our themes home for us, all that can be stuffed into this thing. And then also from time to time, I'll put in different articles and whatnot. In fact, the 20-minute experiment that we talked about some time back, I put that in there. We had a discussion about stops and how 3 kinds of stops. So I'll throw all that in there as well when I think there are going to be more evergreen type stuff that I just don't want in our regular rants, but I think would serve us well to have in a more evergreen type situation where we can go and talk about stops any old time, trading size decisions, risk discussions, etc. So anyway, I wanted to make sure you guys know how these things are continuing to grow, how these notes are continuing to grow. And I think it's time to hop into the fishbowl here, shall we? All right, so let's go ahead and see what we were talking about on Tuesday, what ultimately happened, and then we'll start building out our Wednesday notes.